The Walking Dead Season 11 Part B has ended, and we have a lot to talk about going into the last ever 8 episodes for The Walking Dead. Let's break down this entire finale. What's going on, Walking Dead family? Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, the Viking. Make sure you give a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for a brand new video every single day. The last few minutes of this episode were terrifying. They were scary because Lance Hornsby, with all the power at his disposal, the Commonwealth army has overtaken Alexandria, Hilltop and Oceanside, and this leaves our group of survivors in a very sticky situation. But it looks like there is a war brewing between the Commonwealth and the Commonwealth, because we know that there is some sort of revolution brewing inside the Commonwealth against the higher-ups, the Miltons, Lance Hornsby. So this could be something that Daryl, Carl, Negan, Maggie and co use to their advantage in the last ever part of the main Walking Dead series. And I thought this episode was brilliant. I loved the part where Daryl, Gabe and Aaron knew that those soldiers were going to turn their guns and shoot them, but Daryl got ahead of it straight away and they fought back and they won. But as I said, the last few shots of this episode were very scary because Lance Hornsby's going around like he's Two-Face, with half of his face scarred, a coin, tossing it to see if he's going to kill people or not. So it's very, very interesting going into these last 8 episodes. And for me, this episode and the last episode felt like maybe a cinematic movie in a way. Some of the shots were absolutely brilliant, especially some of the slow-mo shots were really cool to look at. But let's go through this entire episode, The Walking Dead Season 11, Episode 16. Let's talk about what we liked and didn't like about this episode. And this comes from denofgeek.com. One last mid-season finale, and that's all she wrote for The Walking Dead. One of the biggest hits in cable television history. The Walking Dead spawned a zombie renaissance. All without using the Z word. 2 spin-off shows have already hit the airwaves, with one more definitely on the way, and 2 other ones announced. That's not counting all of the other media that spun up either as a response to or to ride the tales of The Walking Dead. Like the brilliant Black Summer. I love that show actually. That's on Netflix. 2 seasons. It's so good. Check it out. There'll be time to look at the legacy of the show later. For now, we've got Acts of God to witness, which is the title of this episode. At this point, The Walking Dead has a good handle on what the show does well and what the show doesn't do well. And as such, Acts of God plays mostly to the strengths of the program. That is, tension, action, gun battles and some narrowly smashed zombie special effects. With the walkers only really a threat in bulk, the true antagonist of the show is always another person plotting against our heroes. And without a good fresh villain, the show can be a little flat. Pope certainly had his moments of being despicable, but there's not a villain quite as dark and as maybe ruthless as Lance Hornsby. Throughout the episode, Hornsby struts, snarls, and orders people around to do his bidding, sending his own men to their deaths, recruiting a dangerous psychopath as a fixer in Leah, and generally being a real unlikable post-apocalyptic middle manager. He's not got real power, but he's got enough power to do things like this, and his attempts to carve out this location in Virginia away from the watchful eyes of Pamela Milton are all that matters to him, and that means he has to kill a whole lot of loose ends, namely all of the survivors of the Walking Dead universe that the fans love so much. Lance has guns, numbers, and urgency. The survivors from Hilltop and Alexandria have knowledge of the terrain and experience. The stakes are life and death, and throughout the episode, the omnipresent weirdness of two apocalypses happening at once. The familiar zombies and the unfamiliar plague of the filling background with buzzing add to the sense of unease. Katrina Mackenzie's direction leans into that nervous energy, with Aaron, Gabriel, Daryl only able to communicate with whispers and knowing looks, and their enemies doing likewise as they plan to lead the tree into an unexpected trap. The tree actors do an awesome job of looking exhausted and worried throughout their scenes together. Even before they're getting into gunfights, the tree look worn down simply from the plotting and counter-plotting they're doing alongside the hard work of clearing houses of walkers and looking for weapons. The tree men know aren't anywhere they're looking. The hunt for Leah, or Leah's hunt for Maggie, is no less suspenseful. It's mostly quietly creeping around in the woods, deafened by the buzzing of the locusts overhead and the moans of the interrupting dead as the two try desperately to track down and get the drop on the other one. Scenes like this can be difficult, as it's easy to fail to hold interest when it's just a single person wandering through the woods, but Mackenzie, Cohan and Collins are able to keep things nervy with more than a little help from Bayer McCreary and Sam Ewing's excellent anxious score. The music does a lot of heavy lifting to establish and maintain mood throughout. Music is one of the most underrated elements The Walking Dead does well, and Acts of God is a prime example of how the soundtrack can really add to the proceedings. Even when things aren't immediately life or death, such as in the Commonwealth, as Max, Eugene try to gather evidence against the Milton administration. There's no real tension, but writer Nicole Matthews has crafted this particular portion of the episode as something of a miniature Watergate, with Max sneaking records out of the office to deliver them to Kelly and Connie, aka Woodward and Bernstein. They're only barely scratching the surface of the Commonwealth's corruption. As the empire grows, so grows the problems at home for Milton and company. The episode ends one of the subplots of the season in a pretty explicit fashion, but the power struggle between Lance and Milton will only be growing as Commonwealth flags drop from the battlements surrounding Alexandria and Hilltop. The Milton regime finds itself struggling beneath the weight of its own secrets, with its best problem solver distracted with his own ego. The very people that saved Alexandria and Hilltop from certain destruction time and time again are scattered and disorganized, but determined. For every success by the Commonwealth's power structure, a potential defeat is created. Lance is fighting to carve out an empire for himself using someone else's resources. Pamela Milton is fighting to stay on top of an empire she created. The bulk of the people of the Commonwealth only want to preserve the status quo and their cushy way of life. No one involved in the coming battle has as much to lose as our survivors. The people of Alexandria, Hilltop and Oceanside. Their life was difficult without the help of the Commonwealth, but it was theirs. They were their own bosses, and they succeeded or failed on their own merits and by their own wits. Jumping into bed with Lance was a necessary evil, but still an evil. The gloves are off. The darkness behind the smile of the Commonwealth is apparent for anyone willing to look beyond the ice cream cart and healthy trade in vinyl records. An expendable workforce sent off to die on foolish errands for ungrateful people is only sustainable as long as those expendable people don't realise they outnumber their oppressors. Things won't end well for Lance Hornsby and his hand-picked squad of secret police now that they're not a secret. The house of cards on which the Commonwealth is built is about to collapse, and there's no telling what will happen when those walls no longer keep the outside world at bay. Again, that comes from denofgeek.com. And I was kind of wary of the political side of The Walking Dead. You know, the Commonwealth coming in and it feeling too real in terms of our own world. Politics, I'm not really a big fan, I'm not interested in it, you know. But I have to say, The Walking Dead has maintained its horror element to it, its tension with the politics coming into it. And I actually find this very interesting to talk about every week and to just kind of break down, because when inside the Commonwealth, you've got the rich, you've got the elite, you've got the middle people, you've got the poor people. And Lance Hornsby is trying to overtake Pamela Milton. You got the Milton administration, Sebastian is there as well. And it's very, very interesting. It's an environment we haven't seen our group in at all. And I think it's been done very, very well. I really do. The writing has been fantastic. The directing, the performances have been just outstanding. And this episode was fantastic to watch. And the closing shot, as I said, is very scary for our survivors. But also, remember, there's a revolution brewing within inside the Commonwealth. And that means there's a lot of people that are not happy. So this is something that Carl and Daryl and Maggie and Negan can use to their advantage going forward. And Lance, he had this secret operation that Pamela didn't know anything about. So he couldn't really go to her. He couldn't go back to the Commonwealth and get more soldiers to kill Daryl and Maggie. But now it's kind of out, so it's going to be interesting what he's going to do. What's his reason when he's telling Pamela Milton, I've taken over Alexandria and co? What's he going to say? So that's going to be very interesting to see as well. There was a sneak peek promo for the next episode, episode 17. And Negan is meeting with Mercer, so that's going to be a very interesting exchange between those two characters. Also, Daryl killed his love interest, Leah. He had to. She was going to kill Maggie, and she was too far gone. She just could not be stopped at all. Yes, the two of them had a relationship together, but that dwindled over time. She joined the Reapers, Daryl went back to his family, and then they met again, and she just wasn't going to come back. And even Daryl tried. He gave her a chance. He let her go. He let her live, but she just kept going, and she was going to kill Maggie. So the only thing Daryl could do was shoot Lee in the head. And, you know, the character has had a long run, an interesting run, but she's gone now, and I think it's the best thing for the show. But Daryl had to do it. He really did. But he tried with her. He tried to make it work. But just, Daryl and love is just not meant to be. Maybe in his spin-off series we will see it, or with Connie. I'd love to see that kind of relationship start happening there. But yeah, he had to. And it was great tension between Maggie and Leah in that scene. The fight sequence was good. The music was good. So yeah, very, very well made episode. This episode, I really liked it. But guys, what's your thoughts on this episode, The Walking Dead Season 11, Episode 16? We only have 8 episodes to go, and that is quite sad. But we are trying to enjoy it, and we're getting some awesome, awesome content. We really, really are. Top-notch episode. Let me know your thoughts. Give a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. And as always, guys, I really appreciate you watching my videos. Also, Fear the Walking Dead has released a webisode series of the submarine from Fear the Walking Dead. I haven't watched it yet, so I will watch that tonight, and I'll do a review on that tomorrow. So, yeah, I've heard good reports. Also, Tales of the Walking Dead is coming this summer. So, The Walking Dead show is ending, but the universe is not. It's expanding. It's getting bigger and bigger, which is so, so exciting, guys. And we'll be here to talk about it all. Guys, thanks for watching. Really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next video.